From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another, generation to generation. We awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. At this time, we have an opportunity to light our candles of community in the back of the room. We can light a candle for a joy or a concern, or simply to bring more light into our space. Let us stand together in body or spirit for the chalice lighting and our spoken affirmation. In the beginning, there was light, infinite and expansive, flowing out from an unseen center. Throughout creation, there is light, from the steady sun, the glowing moon, the flashing meteor, the twinkling stars, and the auroras dancing in the northern skies. Within each part of creation, there is light, slowed down and held close by every cell and molecule, by each atom and element. Within you, there is light, the same light as the source, the same radiance that is in all creatures. May this small flame be a constant reminder to you of your true nature and your kinship with all beings. Let us join together in the spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another. Be seated. Our opening thought this morning comes from Aldo Leopold, from his writing, The Land Ethic in a Sand County Almanac. Leopold writes, "The land ethic simply enlarges the boundaries of the community to include soil, water, plants, and animals, or collectively, the land. In short, a land ethic changes the role of Homo sapiens from conqueror of the land community to simply being plain members and citizens of it." Our next reading comes from Erazim Kohak, another one of my mentors at Boston University when I was in graduate school. And this reading comes from his book, The Embers and the Stars, which he wrote in a cabin that he had built in New Hampshire, very similar to the kind of experience that Thoreau had on Walden Pond. Kohak writes, "Greed, the twin of pride, has ever been the driving force of the most destructive and self-destructive human acts. The logic is familiar enough. In their pride, humans seek to dominate their world, to possess it, free to use or abuse, destroy and alienate it as they see fit. From the latest electronic gadgets to other items of consumption, they are items bought in the illusion that possession can mean fulfillment, and unceremoniously discarded when the illusion bursts. We are hopelessly burdened by excess possessions, closets of once worn clothes, and yet we build more closets to fill, afraid that if our lives lost the purpose of acquisition, they would have no purpose at all. As we prepare for our meditation, which comes to us from David Volker, a guided meditation on the ecological self, a few suggestions before we start. I recommend sitting for this meditation, and while you're sitting, if you find that focusing on your breath in any way causes anxiety or any other discomfort, you can instead focus on the feeling of your body being pulled downward by gravity toward the earth and pressing into the chair or the ground, wherever you are sitting. If you can do so comfortably, slide forward just a little bit on your chair so that you can keep your upper body upright and supported using your skeleton rather than leaning back onto the chair, if that's comfortable for you to do. Also, you can close your eyes, or if you like, focus your gaze on the ground about 3 or 4 feet in front of you. In the case of those of you with people in chairs in front of you, probably just close your eyes. Let's begin. As we begin, take 3 deep, grounding breaths. Inhale slowly and fully, and exhale slowly and completely. As you inhale, feel the air in your nostrils, your chest, and your belly. Notice where your breath feels most alive. The oxygen being absorbed in your lungs came from the trees, the grasses, the phytoplankton of the oceans, and all of the green plant beings. You thrive on oxygen that was exhaled by plants, by countless plant beings. When you exhale, the carbon dioxide formed inside your body may well be inhaled by plant beings. We living beings breathe in and out together. If it feels good to you on your next out breath, exhale gratitude for this life-giving air. Notice the weight of your body pressing into the chair. Well over half of your weight comes from the water in your body. Imagine where that water comes from. See in your mind's eye how the water gathered in the clouds, fell from the sky as rain, flowed across the earth into a stream or river or lake. Or perhaps it seeped down into the earth and joined the groundwater. Remember what it feels like to be thirsty and to drink a glass of cool water. If it feels good to you on your next out-breath, exhale gratitude for the clouds, the rain, the stream, the river, and the lake inside of you. This is the same water that has supported life on earth for millions upon millions of years. The food that you eat gives you energy and all of the nutrients your body needs to live. What have you had to eat today? And where did that food come from? From the sun, the soil, the water, the air, the mycorrhizae fungi, the plant beings, and perhaps also animal beings. The energy stored by plants and animals when they were living now allows you to live. On your next exhale, see if you can feel the warmth of your body in your belly. The heat inside your body can be traced back through the web of life to the sun. Once again, notice the weight of your body pressing into the chair. Feel how the bones in your skeleton allow you to hold yourself upright or hold you to the ground. Feel how the gravity of the earth pulls you into your chair, pulls you toward the ground. The minerals in your bones come from the very earth that pulls on you, from the very earth that holds you close. And before you were part of the earth, these minerals were born in the stars. Can you feel the clouds and rivers in your veins, the breath of the plants in your lungs, the energy of the sun in your belly, and the minerals of the earth in your bones? Can you feel how your life is connected to all other life on this planet? If it feels good to you on your next out-breath, exhale gratitude for the winds and waters, the plant and animal beings, and the living planet of which you are a small part. How will you reciprocate these gifts? What might you do to help ensure that all living beings can enjoy clean air, clean water, and healthy soil? Our next reading comes from Sally McFaig and her work, A New Climate for Theology. McFaig writes, "We must change our view of ourselves, our anthropology, so that we will elect leaders who can help structure our society in ways that are good, not just for some privileged human beings, but for all human beings and all other life forms. This is what global warming is telling us. We cannot continue to live as selfish individuals, heedless of the consequences of our profligate adolescent behavior." The title of my discourse this morning is "It's Not Just About Us." If I had a subtitle, it would be something like this: Get over yourself. Far too often, we think and act as if the world were made for us. As if the world were made for us, rather than seeing ourselves as actually being made from the world. This contributes, I think, to our tendency to see the world primarily as an object for use, for consumption, or for some other human benefit, rather than living in the world as if it were our community, because it is. One of the greatest errors in human self-understanding, I think, has been the mistake of thinking that that which makes us special in nature somehow makes us separate from nature. For centuries, a segment of humanity, guided by greed, has used reason for conquest and control of nature, and also conquest and control of people who have lived in harmony with their ecological communities. Our only sustainable path forward is to move away from conquering and conquest and that use of reason to focusing on empathy and compassion as a guide for reason towards a future of regeneration and restoration of nature, and also regeneration and restoration of persons who have lived in community with nature, in such a way that we avoid continued ecological degradation and continued human deprivation on this earth. We need to realize that we do not enhance the inherent worth of human life by denying the inherent worth of non-human life. All life has intrinsic value. All life has inherent worth. Just because we as humans have evolved to possess rational capabilities, which I think are sometimes really overrated, just because we've evolved to have those rational capabilities does not mean that we have a right to enslave the rest of nature. This summer, we are being reminded of where our greed and our attempts to conquer and control nature are taking us, as we have witnessed a new level of extreme events connected to our climate crisis. Just in the last 2.5 months, we've experienced the hottest June on record. The hottest June since record keeping began in 1880, the hottest June that any of us here have ever experienced in our lives, unless anyone was born in 1879, no? Okay. Think about it. The hottest June on record, maybe the hottest June in thousands of years. Also, during the last 2.5 months, we experienced the hottest day that's ever been recorded since 1880, the first week of July. And then the first week of July was the hottest week ever recorded since 1880, perhaps even earlier. And you can probably guess that July was the hottest month. Not just the hottest July, but it was the hottest July, but also the hottest month ever recorded since 1880. And 2023 is easily on pace now to become the hottest year since record keeping began. Now, it's important to know what's going on. Why is it so hot this year? There's a number of factors. First of all, the greenhouse gas emissions that we've been emitting in the industrial age have created a rise in global average temperatures from pre-industrial averages. That's about 1 degree Celsius higher than pre-industrial averages. Also, during this year, we're experiencing an El Nino event, where the surface of the eastern Pacific Ocean is much warmer than it normally is, and that also increases global average temperatures. And then also, and this hasn't been talked about too much, but there was a very large volcanic eruption last year in the South Pacific that spewed an immense amount of water vapor into the atmosphere, which climate scientists say is also exacerbating the increase in temperatures that we're experiencing this year. Now, if we hadn't had that 1 degree Celsius increase already, and if we weren't in an El Nino year, and it had only been that volcanic eruption, it would not have been that big of a deal. But when you add the increase in temperature from that increased water vapor on top of the 1 degree Celsius and on top of the El Nino event, you end up with a year like 2023, which is giving us a taste, it's not a good word for it, but a taste of what 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperatures from pre-industrial average will be like. So we may not see these kinds of temperatures repeated over and over again over the next decade, but it gives us a taste of what it will be like if we continue on the trend that we currently are seeing. And what will it be like? Well, this year we're seeing what it's like. Record wildfires in Canada, causing really almost unbreathable air over vast swaths of North America. You saw the pictures of New York City earlier in the summer. It was the worst pollution on Earth during that time. 101-degree waters off the coast of Florida. I'm not a big hot tub fan, but I'm told that's about what people put as the temperature of their hot tubs, right? That's wreaking havoc on marine ecosystems. That's wreaking havoc on coral reefs. We're seeing record-breaking floods and extreme droughts all over the world. And then this past week, we witnessed the horrific fires on the island of Maui that were not necessarily caused by the climate crisis, but were exacerbated by factors related to the climate crisis. To borrow some words from the Christian tradition, the whole creation is groaning in travail. And if we needed another reminder of our human capacity to destroy each other and even destroy most of life on Earth, there was a movie that came out this summer that reminded us all of just that. I'm not referring to the movie Barbie, but rather to the movie Oppenheimer. The movie Oppenheimer explores the events leading to the development, testing, and use of atomic weapons from the perspective of the scientist who led the work to create the atom bomb. And perhaps Oppenheimer was, in a sense, speaking for all of us when, after the detonation of the atom bomb at the Trinity test site in New Mexico, he quoted the words from the Bhagavad Gita. And these were those words: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Our capacity and willingness to destroy each other and the rest of life on Earth hold our entire world in bondage. There are roughly two possible ways for the Earth to heal and eventually be set free from the immense damage and bondage that's being caused by human beings. It's not being caused by all of us equally. There are some who are more culpable than others, and large corporations and fossil fuel industry are certainly some of those. But there are roughly two possible ways to set creation free from the damage and bondage that's caused by human exploitation. One way is for us to immediately engage in a multi-decade process of transforming our current ecologically degenerative economic systems, say that 3 times fast, that treat nature solely as a commodity, solely as a resource to be consumed. To move away from that and do the necessary work of creating regenerative systems as we find a way to thrive in balance with the carrying capacity of the planet. Sounds really nice, but very difficult to do. How do we break the addiction that we have from economic growth? We have a social, political, and financial addiction to economic growth that's very difficult to move away from. How do we move away from that understanding of the economy to an understanding of the economy that we need to thrive in balance, whether or not we have economic growth? It will require moving away from the use of fossil fuel as quickly as possible to preserve a livable climate. It will require intentional and systemic efforts to restore habitats, to restore ecosystems, for the recovery of wildlife populations that have been decimated over the past 50 years. It will require transformation of our economic systems, our political systems, our energy systems, our transportation systems, and our food systems. If that sounds daunting, it is. It is. If it sounds difficult, it is. If it sounds complex, it is. But it's all better than the other possibility. The other possibility for our planet to heal and eventually be restored from the ecological damage that's caused by human beings is this. The earth might heal from the damage caused by humanity and our current exploitative, extractive, and ecologically degenerative systems and practices that have created the climate emergency that we are experiencing. What could happen is we could continue to live as we are and continue to create what many scientists are calling the sixth great extinction on our planet, where we have an extinction rate that's 1,000 times greater, some scientists say, than the normal background extinction rate on the planet. So if we continue that path, if we continue in the status quo path, we'll continue to have reduction of wildlife, we'll continue to have mass extinction, and then eventually, in this second scenario, Earth will soon no longer be able to sustain human civilization. And with that, there will be a massive economic and ecological collapse that will lead to immense suffering and death, including the death and suffering of millions of species on Earth. Eventually, after this catastrophic die-off, the Earth will begin to heal slowly over time. And it will even likely at some point fully recover its diversity of life. But it will take 10 million years to do so. I'd like to think that if we fully realize that the extinction event that we are currently causing will take 10 million years to recover from, that we might act a bit more urgently to stop it. So far, I'm disappointed. But it's not just about us. It's not just about the survival of human beings. It's about the survival of thousands upon thousands of other species. It's about the diversity of life for the next 10 million years. Either we take path one and preserve that diversity. There's no guarantees, right? There might be an asteroid out there with our name on it, a comet. There might be some other event that's out of our control. But the climate crisis is not one of those events. The climate crisis is an event that we still have a way of mitigating, a way of improving, a way of making better. The choice is ours. An intentional path of regeneration in which we as humans and most of the species currently living on Earth will survive, or a path of unsustainable exploitation and ecological degeneration that leads to the end of human civilization and the vast majority of currently existing species, followed by that 10 million years of evolutionary recovery. If we as humanity continue down our current path, those most responsible for perpetuating our current ecocidal systems and practices will, like Oppenheimer when he said, "I have become death, the destroyer of worlds." We as humanity will have become death, the destroyer of worlds. The choice is clear. We must become life, the restorer of worlds. And the good news for us, in my tradition, the Christian tradition, we like to end on good news. The good news for us this day and every day is that we still have a choice. We have a choice to follow the way of love and justice, the way of hope and regeneration. We still have a choice to love each other. We still have a choice to love all of life on earth. We have a choice, using some language from my tradition, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with each other in ecological community. We still have a choice to live into the hope that can make beloved community a reality. But in order to make this beloved community real, we must come to the realization that we have to reject the misconception that only human beings have worth, that only human beings have intrinsic value. We must come to fully realize that when it comes to the well-being of the community of all life, it is not just about us. So in the most positive way I can possibly say this, it's time we get over ourselves. It's time we get over ourselves so that we can be most fully open to each other, so that we can be most fully open to the beauty and the value of the beloved community of all life. One way of getting over ourselves is by giving. And like that segue, at this time we have an opportunity to give either at the table, and there are also ways to give online. Let us stand in body or spirit for our parting thought and the extinguishing of the chalice. Our parting thought comes from that great environmental champion, Rachel Carson, from her work, Silent Spring. She writes, "We stand now where two roads diverge. But unlike the roads in Robert Frost's familiar poem, they are not equally fair. The road we have been traveling is deceptively easy, a smooth superhighway on which we progress with great speed, but at its end lies disaster. The other fork of the road, the one less traveled by, offers our last, our only chance to reach a destination that assures the preservation of the earth." Let us join together in the extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.